Good afternoon. Thanks for attending the Great Plains Annuity and Life Marketing webinar today. My name is Rich Hellerich, principal at Great Plains, and I see a lot of people on here I know that I talk to on a regular basis, and everybody that's on here, I really appreciate you being here. Hey, I want to give a shout out to a guy I know that's going to a major doctor's appointment today, a good guy that I've talked to, Dale, and man, I hope everything's going good for him today. I know he's got a tough road kind of ahead of there. So anyway, we're thinking of you, Dale. Next thing up, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit today about a product that I'm excited about, and I think a lot of our agents are excited about it. And, you know, we just had a recent rate increase with this product that, you know, going into the last, 4 months of the year, 5 months of the year, if the carrier will cooperate a little bit and keep these rates up there and maybe keep our comp up there on the bonus that we have, I think we have a really good play here for our clients to offer them something special. Before this, and we get into this, I mean, I have a couple, 3 products that I really go to for accumulation, and this is one of them. The other 2, the camps have kind of, they've eased down a little bit. They're not as attractive right now as they were, but I'm going to show everybody what I'm doing and what I tell my agents to do, and it's a good story. Quote system's good, and I think it can help you make more money here in the last 4 or 5 months of the year. So anyway, let's get going. Our top FIA, this is one of them. We've picked this company up. It's with Guggenheim Life, and we'll disclose and tell everybody more about it. But Guggenheim Life launched this product now about 17, 18 months ago. In fact, I had another friend just send me his renewal statement that he got from a year ago. Everything renewed right on pace, and he did extremely well with his contract, or I should say did exactly what we said I would do. So I'm very happy with it, but I think you're going to have a good opportunity here to sell this product. Let's go down here and talk why we're kind of excited about it. And right here is what we're going to be talking about today. I like all these options, and I've had guys that I've worked with for 35 years now say that they like the point-to-point, and I like the point-to-points. I like the point-to-point a lot better when the cap was at 7 and 8, and it was a little easier to digest at that point. So, but when we come down in here and look at a couple other options, I particularly like this 2-year participation rate, and I like the 5-year too myself. I like the chips, let them fall where they fall, and I'll show you how I'm trying to maximize client returns so that they can leverage their entire money instead of worrying about a 1-year 85%. Maybe if we take the money and split it the right way, we can get 110% on all the money and have money coming due every year. So anyway, that's what we're going to talk about. But one last thing, and it's funny, this 2.5% fixed rate account. We were sitting there looking at some MIGA rates, and goodness gracious, some of the AA plus rated carriers out there have MIGA rates. 5-year MIGA rates at $1.80 to $2.10 right now. I mean, right here we got a $2.50 on an index contract. I mean, it's a great rate to have in today's environment. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about on the Trivista. How do I maximize my accumulation potential? First thing is we got to use our head. Smart reallocation, not to begin with. Let me show you how you begin on a couple different strategies. But we need to have smart reallocation every year. And the great thing is once you put this in play, if this is the way you're going to go with this particular allocation, you don't have to go in there and change it every year. And the best part about the way I do it is that, even though like a 2-year point-to-point, a lot of guys, well, I didn't get any return this year. The client's always talking about it because everybody loads up all their participation in that one contract year. So I'm going to show you exactly how the client can get a statement and have some returns every year so that you can come back to the client and not have to worry about any zero gains for that particular contract for your policy anniversary date. The other thing we got to have, the FIA has got to do its part. Again, I go back to that original, the cap rates at 4% and 5, not 5, but you're getting down there in the 3.5, 4, 4.5, and stuff like that, especially the products that have 7, 8, 10% bonus products. I mean, the caps are at 2.5 and 3%. And man, I mean, the client's going to pay, through the nose for year 3 through 10, to get 10% up front. I mean, that love goes away real quick. Okay, so this FI does its part. The other thing that, and then just to reiterate, these are the rates that just did come out on the contracts, and right now we're going to, again, I like the point-to-point at 85%, but these two green, I notice how I have the green arrow. I'm telling everybody that's green for go. That's where we're going to go today. Again, I'll come back down here, the 2.5%. I still like that though too. And we're going to buzz right through this. I already highlighted all that. Let's go over here and talk real quick about the 2-year strategy. And this came off the Morgan Stanley. Actual returns at the 2-year strategy that it had. And if everybody can look in there, you know, for example, if you got a 10% return, I'm just going to do that because I have the plus 10% upgrade. No matter what returns that contract picks out of there, if you go to the, let's say the 3rd year at 9.9, you know, if you do this strategy an extra 10%, it's really, you're going to get a, you know, 10.9. You get that 10% upgrade for doing nothing more than doing to the 2-year because of the participation rate. Again, that is with a no cap, no fee. These are actual gains of the 2-year strategy. Had actual return on hypothetical returns since Morgan Stanley went back here and ran their options on it, but again, the 10% upgrade. So I like that. I also here wanted to plug in here a quote, and I'm going to show you what it is. My name, agent, hypothetical, most recent 10-year calendar period. If I go in here, and I'm not 55, I'm 54, but get the point here, age 64, you can see the kind of returns of this contract popped in here every 2 years. Oh, there you go. I got to be showed how to run it. 16.801, here's a 15.960, 11 point, and then down here at the bottom on the account value, we come down here at 171,000. So at the end of the 10 years, right up here at the very top, you know, my simple math where I went to school, that shows me a 7.1% most recent 10-year period. You can run these quotes, everybody. You can run these quotes on the website. We can run them for you, but the client understands that, and that's the most recent 10-year period. And now I know a lot of guys, after I get off this phone call, but Rich, you never showed us what the worst 10-year period is. Okay, let's go down here and I'll show you. Here's an actual quote on behind the same page that I just ran. And right in here, the best 10-year period. I mean, I really could have skewed this thing. Hey, fellas, here, look in here, 223,270. The quote does it for you and shows you the best possible period, but I went in here and showed at 171,000. This is the worst 10-year period, and then the last 10-year period, again, was the 7.1%. So anyway, but the quote really does allow to do it. And this is, again, is showing on a 2-year, every 2 years with 110%. And these quotes, they pick up the extra 10% that you're going to get that the company is giving you from the 110% participation rate. Okay, and then I had one other slide, and the client will understand this, that comes right out of the actual quoting process. It shows the 100, and it will show the client these numbers of the best case scenario and shows them what happened the last 10 years. Both of these numbers here are not embarrassing. They'll help you sell a lot of business in here. And where do I think it's going to be? Probably somewhere in between there, but at least it gives the client a visual showing how your 2-year point-to-point works at 110%. I like that. So how do I allocate? That's how we're going to go back in here, and I'm going to show you back in here how I think you can take this number and get more up to this number if you do this. And here's what I tell my agents to do. I put 50% in the 1-year Morgan Stanley at 80%. Okay? I take another 50% and I put in the 2-year at 110% participation rate. And then what I'm trying to do at the end of 1 year on my anniversary day, I take this original 50% right up here, the 80%, and I roll it down in here to a new 2-year bucket. So all I've done in here, I've taken all this money, 10-year contract now, and I have 9 years left on the contract, and I've moved all that money at 110%. And then what I'm going to run back up to on a couple other slides, here's what the best part is. These numbers here, I'm going to get something here because if the market did something, because I got a 1 year here. So when the client gets their statement, right, client gets their statement here, they're going to show some kind of a positive return here, which, believe me, I've done a lot of presentations with agents and clients, and man, one thing they don't understand, Oh man, I got 0. Well, at least here, if the market did anything and Morgan Stanley did their part, we're going to have some kind of a positive return here. If you have a little bit in the 2.5% fixed rate, you're going to have something here too. You know, you can put a little bit over there if you want to, you know, maybe 25% and do the other 75% on two-year buckets. But here's what I'm trying to show you. I can get 110% and I can get these kind of things every 2 years on 50% of the money. So when the client gets their statement, I don't show these. If the client shows these, okay, if the client's going to show these kind of 0 numbers in here, it's going to be because the market didn't do anything, and that's a lot easier to take and to explain, especially when the markets are kind of, you know, doing as well as they are lately. So anyway, that's my whole scenario that I try to do, and I tell my agents how to get 110% on all the money if they want to do this. But I come back in here for doing nothing more than allocating. I get a 10%. So if I got a 10% gain, I now have 11. If I got 5, I'm going to get 5.5. If I got, and you know how it goes from there. But this was one way that you can increase and basically pick up an extra 10% for not doing any more than doing the right thing and allocating on every 2 years. And if you don't like this, I have some guys that go in here just so they always are going north. Man, there's nothing wrong with putting a little bit of money in that 2.5% fixed rate. I mean, right now, 2.5%, man, it looks pretty good. Okay, let's go on here and talk about the next size that I do. Now I'm going to come back over here and show you how to get the 20% upgrade. I like this strategy a lot, especially if you're an income writer and you're going to own the contract for a long time. You know, it's a great strategy, and it can show great potential. But over here on the 5-year return, and you can run these right off the Guggenheim website, showing Trivista, but you can see these positive 5-year returns. Imagine in here if you get credit, I'll use the 40 that I'm at right here, the 40.1, because 20% is easy. So if you got 40% and you get an extra 20% upgrade, now I got 48. Let me repeat that again. I got 48. That's not a bad way to go. That's a nice little pleasant surprise. If you go in here and add all these numbers in here and think if you did something like this and you allocate a little way, I'm going to tell you, you can get a chunk of those kind of bigger returns and the 20% top on top of that. Not a bad way to show a client. Okay, let's go in here and I'll show you exactly what I do in here. Here's the most recent 10-year calendar period that I've done. I'm the agent, 60. I'm told you guys I'm 54. But anyway, the gist of it in here every 5 years, and you can see the numbers in here. 23,274, 50,250. Now, I'm going to show you, I think these numbers would have been a little bit higher if we had to every year come and do, and I'll show you how we're going to get that. But even here, we got a 7.3% return. That's not a bad way to go, guys. It shows the client well. Now, if you go out here and run another part of the same quote, it'll show you here, best 10-year period. 235,000, and your numbers would have went 60% and 45 or 46%, worst 10-year period, right? 173,524, and the most recent 10-year period, and the last 10-year period, same numbers. But anyway, I pick up this graph, and you can see right in here, the client will see this too, at 173 and 235. The clients like seeing these numbers, guys. Run these quotes for them on everything, and you can show them easy to understand, worst case, best case, and then get into your reallocation and how you're going to allocate their money. But let's get in here. Here's what I do on the 50%. If you want 50% on the entire block, I put 40% of the client's money in the 1 year at 80%. I put 40% in the 2 year at 110%, and I put 20% in the 5 year at 120%. My whole goal in here is to roll the continuous 5-year buckets. And how am I going to do that? At the end of 1 year, it's real simple. I take 50% of the 40 right up here. Oh, I went too far. 40% of the 1 year, and I move it to a new 5-year bucket. Okay? So now I only have half this money left in here in the 1 year, and I still have all this money in the 2 year, and I have this portion 20% in a 5-year bucket. And I have a new bucket that comes down here of basically 20% of my original investment back in here into a new 5-year bucket at 120%. At the end of year 2, I move half of the 2 year on down, back down in here to a new 5-year bucket. Okay? So now I've done this at the end of going into my 3rd year. Guess what happens? This original 80% up here it comes due again, and I move it down to a new 5-year bucket. Until the 4th year, I move this last pile of money to a new 5-year bucket. I now have all that money invested in 5-year buckets at 120%. Now, I told this strategy to a lot of producers, and I've had a couple guys, yeah, but in 2008, you would have got killed. You know what? You're absolutely right. But here's what you got to remember on an index contract. In order for these things to actually do the right thing, the client has to have, in a 10-year contract, we have to have 2 to 3 years where the client can hit a home run. Follow what I just said here. In order to get those returns, and I know back in 2007, 8, 9, and 10, and all that stuff, and we used to have higher caps, and I remember seeing client renewal statements. I saw some statements where the client had gotten 32, 33% return. An anomaly. It's not going to happen. But I saw some of those, and the clients are happy and all that stuff, and at least that client believes that they can now. But where we're at today, these rates are so terrible, and a lot of these caps are so low, especially if you're out there and have to have a bonus. But right now, you can sell this contract in here and get 120% of participation rate. And if the client don't make money here, they aren't going to make any money. But you go back in here to a 10-year contract, and I need 2 or 3 years where the client can hit a home run. I can tell you this, 2 or 3 years, the client's going to make nothing. We've all been through those. And I need 3 or 4 years where the client's going to make a moderate return. If I do that and throw all those numbers into a hopper, I believe, remember that number we just showed you, a 7.1% return? And the highest number of 223, which would be 20, what was that, 22% return? Here's the point. I think you're going to have a better shot of hitting those kind of numbers than if you go out here and try to find something with a bonus and a 3 or 4% cap. You go out here and cap it out at 3 or 4%, and think of this, if you have to have 3 years where you hit a home run and the market goes up 10 or 12 and you get credited 4, how are you going to get that done? You don't. That's not going to happen. This contract here probably would allow you to do it, at least have a fighting chance to do what I say and to accumulate. And if it doesn't, it's going to be because the market did do something crazy. So I like this 5-year participation, 5-year renewal deal, especially if you're going to do an income rider. Because on this income rider, and I'm just going to show you at the last minute how it does the income rider, and I think you have some major jump ups in your income. But anyway, this is how I do it. So everybody, if you have a question on how to get that done even more, you can call me and I'll walk you through it. I've got a chart I can send to you that shows you exactly how to do it. But this is how we get it all at 120%. Again, I roll a continuous 5-year buckets. But the most important thing is I pick up the extra 20% for doing nothing. Instead of 100%, I got 120. Okay. I just want to show this other slide because I got this given to me by the home office. Everybody, and it was so funny. I do a little bit as a guest show on radio shows, and sometimes after the agents have me on there, they don't want me back because I kind of always tell the truth, and then sometimes those guys kind of ease into a little bit out there in left field, and I always try to bring them back into the infield. But here's something that I thought was very interesting as I was a guest speaker on a radio show. And my question was, out of nowhere, what do I think Brexit's going to have impact on the United States? And I said, well, are you talking about me or my clients and the people we work with? And they said, yeah, your clients, what are they doing? What are you advising? And I said, well, I'm advising them go play golf, go play tennis, whatever they normally do, because all of our money is 100% guaranteed and they had nothing to do with it. Very comforting day. But the long story short, what I thought is that it really ain't going to have any impact. I mean, and it didn't, not right off the get-go. The market fell down, and boom, it came right back up and kind of washed off. But what was interesting, if you follow the blue line, here's what Morgan Stanley did on their asset allocation model. Here's what the S&P, I think the S&P is the, where's that, the green? There's green, S&P fell off. It's coming back up, okay, I get that. But, our Morgan Stanley, the way they manage the money, it was really less susceptible to a major decline from something we can't control. Kind of a comforting thing to know. Okay, anyway, let's go on. Talk about the income rider just real quick. Let me just see if I got the quote in here. Hang on. I'll come back to this. Let's go to the income rider, and I'll come back to this other stuff. But for example, I picked a male age 55 and I started the income in 10 years, and I picked the 2-year. I just picked the 2-year because I want to stay on the same scenario here on allocation. The software won't pick up what I'm telling you to do. You can only allocate initially and won't reallocate in years 2 on out. But right now, if I had $100,000 in here, I'd allocate and I'd get $11,000. And you can see for the next couple of years, right in here, the market probably didn't do much. But anyway, all of a sudden, the market must have credited something right here. It did, and my income level came up, popped up about $600, okay? And then I come back in here the next year, 2 years, it popped up again, and because I get 4% minimum guarantee plus index gain, I have a chance for my income to go up. And right now, you know, all the guys out there that are chasing, well, this company got a 7% roll-up, they got 5%, I don't really care what the roll-up is. I want a fighting chance for increased income with some kind of a guarantee and low interest rates. I don't want to lock in here at 4.5 or 5. I want the potential with some guarantees, and this contract allows you to do it. It's 4% plus index gain, and it rolls up for 15 years. Why do you think I'm doing the 5-year strategy, 120%? If I can get all this money allocated at 120%, my client has a chance. Did you see those returns at 30%, 20%, 30, and 40%? When I get credited that kind of return on that portion of my money, I have a chance for this income, guess what? To jump up every year if I start in 10 years for 5 years until it finally maxes out at the $13,180. Mine will max out at the end of 15 years, but if I have those kind of returns and give my client a fighting chance to make some kind of a return, my client has a fighting chance to have some kind of an income. And if you run a quote out there right now, there's nobody out there on a 55-year-old running a quote that's got reasonable numbers that is going to give me a $13,180 a year for the rest of my life. Not at that time frame. They might beat me right here by a few bucks, but not much. But when I get down into here, they're not even going to come close. So anyway, throwing that out. But then how the income rider actually works, there again, roll-up rate of 4% plus index credit, immediate 10% bonus, roll-up period 15 years, the rider charges 90 basis points. And here, let's move right over here to this one, terminated any time. Hey, if the client buys this contract and looks at their statement, I'm paying, you know, $2,700, I put $300 in there, and I'm just tired of paying that, terminate it. If that's what they really want to do, you can always terminate it. Rider's optional. They'll go down to 50, 45 on a minimum age, compound it, bonus starts day 1, and lifetime availability and all that kind of stuff. All pretty standard, but these are some things right here, right here is a little bit lower in the midterm, I guess, but terminated any time. That's what makes that contract hum. Okay. So anyway, let's move on. The other thing I want to talk about, I just talked to an agent yesterday, and he was telling me about an app he wrote with a company. It starts with, the company was starting with the letter A. And we were talking about the 95-page app I sent to him, and then he was talking about the Guggenheim app that was 32 pages. Suitability on the first page, my gosh, it was ridiculous. 4 people had to, I don't know how many people had to work on that suitability disclosure. Long story short, $195,000 app went to that company, was declined. We got it over Guggenheim because why? I got to talk to somebody that would listen to me and tell me why we were moving the money and why it made sense. And I believed it did too. And I went to bat for the agent. We got the case, $190,000 approved that the other company wouldn't take. But anyway, you call over there, that company will pick up your phone call. They got a marketing team that knows their product. And here's the main thing, suitability is complete and acceptable. If every company had their suitability standard, man, I'll tell you what, we'd be really doing great with all the carriers we represent. They get business issued over there. Turnaround time's great. We'll take large cases. I think our largest case, $2.7 million, and all I had to do is make a phone call. They want the money over there, guys. Okay, faxed applications accepted. They got to have the original transfer, but hell, you can fax an application over there and send them a check, wire it to them. Doesn't matter, they do it. Another thing is they pay weekly commissions. And just a small thing, everybody, they are a B+ rated carrier, but I want to throw this thing in there. Guggenheim owns 4 insurance companies, and they got $230 billion. They could buy the top 5, top 5 carriers that are in the, maybe taking all ants out of there. They could buy your company 2 through 5, and it wouldn't even put a dent on them. So they have plenty of money, and they're a good company to work with. Commissions, real quick. I mean, you can call them. We'll see your commission grid. But if you're in a good state, 7%, 5%, 76 to 80, age 81, 3.5. And the states, you can see them right in here where we have tough insurance commissioners. I'll tell you, vote, guys. 6%, 4 and 2.5. Oh, but anyway, they got a commission bonus, so I'll let you know that it goes through the end of August. I haven't heard if they're going to go through September, but right now they're paying a 1% commission bonus, so a little bit better right now. All the states are approved in except for New York, so we got good state availability. Here's our disclosure. If you want to read this in more detail, I'll email it to you. But most importantly, encourage you, call your Great Plains annuity rep, call me. Doesn't matter, let us get you a quote out there. If I need to review the strategy on how to do this to make it work for you, call me. I'm happy to walk you through it. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you again next Tuesday. Thanks, guys.